Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. We are on to the next training and this was a doozy. So get ready, guys. It's funny when we get to this section of the training, the the legal forms and the listing documents and the overall just non-circumvention agreements, for example, they can be extremely overwhelming. And I want to assure you, once you've gone through these things one or two times, you'll have them down to a T and you'll be able to explain them to your buyers and sellers of what they are. And all this legal jargon on here will be much more simplified in your mind to be able to really get everybody over the hump and why we do these things. So, this training is specifically about mutual confidentiality and non circumvention agreement. Think of it as this in a nutshell. This is the agreement in the form. This is everybody is going to follow the rules, and we're going to keep this thing quiet. And you're not going to be allowed to talk about it unless they've signed this agreement. So, essentially, anytime you maybe get a new listing with a new potential seller, they're going to want you to sign this because hey, they're handing over the books, they're handing over their employees, they're trusting you, and they want to ensure that you are not going to say anything to anybody. It could also be simply about you're getting a new potential buyer and we have to watch out because these buyers can be competitors. They could be someone who are just looking for competitive analysis as far as the market insights go. These are all different reasons on why, hey, like you can find the information out, but you are now held to an agreement where both parties are not able to speak about it. So now instead of going through this form in full detail, just down here by every line by line, I'm going to highlight with you some of the main aspects of this that will make it seem a little bit easier to digest. Okay. So here are some of the purposes. Again, we talked about that of this form. What is the definition of confidential information? Don't overcomplicate it. It's essentially is everything. When it comes to proprietary information, logos, data, financials, anything that you could possibly think about that's about that business, competitive insight, strategy, it's all considered confidential information. Okay. Um, it usually some NDAs or non-circumvention clauses are different in timings. We have a 2 year. Now, some businesses might want longer, some may not care at all. But we essentially have this as a standard of 2 years to where not only when you get the information, even if you sell the business or list the business, you still need to maintain that confidentiality for 2 years. Um, Obviously, you have a responsibility with this. Some of those responsibilities are returning essentially any of these confidential information, as well as essentially just discarding it and destructing it. So one of those I'd put a real life example is you just got emailed to you a P&L that simply said here's the last 5 years. Up front, you need to have the conversation with the potential seller that, hey, look, I will have this information, but I will return this to you, or I will discard this and give you the date essentially that I discarded it. Again, most of them are going to say it's not a big deal. I trust you. Just keep it confidentiality at play, and you'll be okay. But again, I always personally like to say we will discard everything, and I will note that in our beginning discussions. If there's any type of legal required to disclose, the recipient must notify the disclosing party to seek a protective order. Again, the whole point of this is to be transparent with each other. I told this, I said this, or where their owners, the buyers are potentially asking this. What are your thoughts? We really want to be just transparent with them and have great communication with our buyers and sellers, so we know exactly what we're saying and we're presenting. Okay. Now, there's no transfer of rights, meaning, hey, look, you're sending it to a partner. For example, this happens in co-brokering. Well, do they have to sign one and me sign one? Yes, you both have to sign one because it does not transfer to a party or a group. Okay. Um, no ownership or interest is transferred at any certain time. Okay. Now, everybody's heard of the NDA. That's really kind of standard. But what is differences between this agreement and a standard NDA? So a non-circumvention clause essentially is where both parties are involved, not just one person. So if I were to say, "Hey, I need you to sign the NDA," you need to essentially be very quiet about the situation and not leak any information. But however, I'm not. So anything that you say to me, I'm good to go. So it's really not a one-way street. Versus a duel is definitely both parties are having to do it. Um, our NDA, the NDAs out there versus our specific non circumvention and mutual confidentiality agreement is 2 years. Some NDAs don't have those restrictions. Some are simply, 1 year, for example. Now, why would you want to include a cash deposit? Well, a cash deposit for an NDA, mutual confidentiality, and non-circumvention agreement is simply because when you start getting to those larger deals, you really are going to find yourself, it's a lot of time. And if you're going to do a due diligence within selling a business, if it's a 15, $20 million business, that those big fish come every now and then, you are going to have to spend a lot of time diving into that business. And you want to make sure that they aren't going to just jump up and leave. And so there's obviously an exclusive buyer or representation agreement, but there's also a clause to where you can charge a fee if you'd like that says, hey, for my protection, I'm going to charge a fee of $3,000 on my side as a broker. That will commit us to where you are for sure going to want me to represent you. Now, on the buyer side of things, if I'm selling my business, I might say, hey, I want $3,000 on this deposit clause because if you break it, I'm taking that $3,000. So it's also protection from the buyer side as well, or excuse me, the seller side. Okay. Now, whenever you get this overall agreement in front of everybody, it looks to you, it looks to me, it looks like it's very complex. However, these confidentiality agreements are standard across the industry. Before you get any listing and you talk about a actual potential buyer, or excuse me, potential seller, sign this form, both you and the seller, because we're going to give them information too as well about BizBroker Plus in our firm, and be able to say, hey, we want to give you information about statistics and data of selling a business. That stuff cannot be obviously displayed to any other competitor of ours either. So it's very standard to be able to get this out there and have it right at the very beginning. Any potential buyer that you have will also have to sign this before we can even give them the SIMs or more detailed information about the business. And then, of course, finally, as you get other third parties involved, other legal teams, other title companies, state transfers, all of these will have to sign these non-circumvention confidentiality agreements. Because again, if it's the Burger King down the street that everybody loves, that they go to, and they're going through a transaction, but that clerk at the legal office loves it, and now they're not going to go to it because it's being transferred to a new owner, that obviously causes harm to this. So we really want to have everybody sign this confidentiality agreement. So if you have any questions about these at any time, you're always welcome to contact us. We can go through this in more detail. You will upload these documents into the Deal Studio so that way everybody has them and they're attached to each contact and profile. But again, I don't want to scare you in any way, but this is definitely something that we need to make sure we are on top of at all times. Confidentiality is extremely, it's a right, it's a privilege to have that. And I would expect that all of us would honor the wishes of both the buyer and the sellers and ourselves and our company to represent a good, healthy company. All right. Well, I appreciate all of your help and through these trainings and taking them, and we'll continue to move forward to the next paper. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.